listening to the House by the Video Store podcast.
There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk near.
We have such sights to show you.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Praise God, boy.
Welcome to the House by Video Store podcast. I'm your host, William. Join me today will be Derek.
Welcome to the podcast, bitch.
And Sean.
It's showtime.
And in this episode, we're discussing A Nightmare on Elm Street for the Dream Master from 1988, which is the fourth film in that series. And that's the point in time at which Freddy started wearing Ray-Bans and being on Pizza Hut commercials. And was that the one that had the rap song for it?
I don't know.
I kind of think because this was very.
Oh yes, there is. There is in the
Yeah.
in the credits.
Yeah, this is like very MTV.
Because I watched. I just let the credits roll, and I think it's the second credit song is the rap.
Yeah, so it's when Nightmare on Elm Street became a cultural icon because the movies have made money. All of them made money, obviously by the fact they all got sequels. But like that one was the highest grossing movie in the series until Freddy vs. Jason and the 2010 remake that everyone hates.
I wonder what made this one so culturally relevant, especially like to MTV.
I think it was just that they had.
Was he a cooler? Was he? I guess he's more fleshed out than Jason and Michael Myers.
He talks.
He has more of a personality.
Yeah, because like Jason's just a big dummy that kills people. Michael Myers is just a big dummy. They're essentially the same character. One's just dead, and one's not. So he's dead too, but he's got some personality.
Yeah, but before we get into discussing that movie in more detail, we'll go through some recent things we've been watching to possibly recommend. So something that, Derek, you'll probably want to watch, and I haven't watched all of this yet. So there's a Netflix true crime series, and this one's only like 4 episodes, and it's called Evil Genius. So it's about a news story where there's a pizza delivery guy that...
Avoidanoid?
No, he robbed... So a pizza guy robbed a bank with a gun that was like a cane shotgun gun that actually worked. It was like a gun inside of a cane that actually like was functioning and would have fired and had ammo in it. So he robbed a bank with that, and he had like a shirt on. And when the cops got there, they saw that he had an explosive device around his neck, and it was a collar bomb. And he had said that he was being forced to rob the bank, or else the bomb would go off and blow up, and he had to do all these things to get a key to take it off.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then
30 minutes or less. The movie.
Yeah, it was kind of based on that. The Jesse Eisenberg, Aziz Ansari movie.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then like the police capture the guy and they have him cornered, and then the bomb goes off and blows up and kills him. And then it's just about the investigation into that that crime. And did the guy do it himself? But in which case, why would he build the bomb and then have himself killed? Was he working?
Why would you build a bomb that is actually would kill you?
Was he complicit in somebody else's plan and just didn't go as intended, and then he died? Or was it literally just he delivered a pizza, got kidnapped, and forced to do this thing? So I've only watched 1 episode, and it was incredibly interesting, and I'm really looking forward to watching the next 3. So it's Evil Genius. It's on Netflix. Kind of in the same vein as a lot of those other kind of true crime shows. But this is one, too, where in real life, like, I don't know there's definitive answers on who did what.
Yeah, I mean, I always find something like that really interesting because there's been a couple of things like that. This is similar because, I'm a big Unsolved Mysteries fan. There was a guy that, like, called a cab, got the cabbie, had him pull over, put a bunch of stuff on him, made him go rob a bank, and then said he put a bomb on him and hit a remote to it, and all of it was lies, and the guy I don't think he got any money out of it.
Yeah.
And they still try to find it, and it's just always find stuff like that really interesting because it's like, what's the motivation?
Well, yeah, because like nobody, I think they said the FBI guy in the first episode said no one in the history of like the world has kidnapped someone, put an explosive device on it, on them, told them to rob the place, they did, and then the bomb went off and killed them.
Yeah.
Like that's never happened.
Most of the time, it is fake.
And the
bomb, it's not an actual...
And this bomb was real and relatively sophisticated and would have required someone that had some knowledge about how to do that.
Because that's what makes it interesting.
It was early 2000s, so it was in the internet era, so it may have been possible to find instructions.
Do you want to play a game?
Was it pre 9/11?
No, it was after 9/11.
See, I feel like that would have. I don't remember ever hearing about it. So you feel like post 9/11, that would have been like a huge story.
But it was all like in Pennsylvania and kind of rural
But
Pennsylvania.
still, like especially after that, you remember like how everybody was on edge. And
But it wasn't like done by Islamic terrorists. It was more just done by people from within
But just
the US.
imagine that happened now. I mean, that would be like Fox News would obviously be posting
Well,
like
too,
a
we
fake-
would know a lot more about it because social media.
Yeah.
You know, back then it was like you had to watch the news
Well, they have
Yeah.
video footage of the dude dying.
to know.
and they
Well,
show
that's what
it.
I'm saying. You had to watch the news or like seek stuff out online.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
just
Well,
like,
because remember he had like the anthrax scare, and that was like
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, when people
and
kept buying those albums of that band Anthrax, and then their parents like, "Oh, it's too hard rock."
Actually, the lead singer of Anthrax was on.
I saw Dave Chen. I guess he was on Slash Film.
Yeah.
or worked for them for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Did you
he's
see he tweeted about Evil Genius? He said he can't take it seriously after listening to The Onion's A Very Fatal Murder. So I guess they have like a mocu-series or whatever, a true crime mocu-series.
Yeah. Well,
which
there's
I
alre-
kind of want to listen to now.
Well, there was already two. So there's all these podcasts
Yeah,
like
Vandal.
Serial and all that stuff. But then like there was a Netflix series, American Vandal, that was done by I think the College Humor people or the Funny or Die people. I'm
Oh, is
blanking
it
on
about the
which.
penis thing?
Yeah, about like a student draws a bunch of penis on all the faculty cars at a school, and it's
Yeah.
investigation into that. So Ash just keeps falling in
He's
here.
mad because the season got canceled. He's got no job, no money.
So yeah, so that's a show I'd recommend watching. I didn't really have a chance to watch
Jobs,
much
no
else.
cash, no ash.
Yeah,
I didn't have
no
a.
food, no money. His pet's heads.
Didn't have a chance to watch much else this week because I got busy and had work stuff going on.
Yeah, I did a bunch of overtime. I mean, the only stuff I really got to watch was obviously like I watched a couple of the Nightmare on Elm Street because I have like a 4-movie collection. So I watched them and Halloween 2, which no need to rehash any of that. Rewatched Deadpool just because it comes out next week and we'll watch it. There's a movie I really want to see, but I don't know if it's in theaters or streaming. It's called it's like I guess it's called Revenge.
Yeah, I thought
And-
Shudder was putting that out, but it's not on their
Limited
servers.
theatrical
Yeah,
release.
because I really want to watch
Yeah.
it. Like whatever it is piqued my interest. It's got a really high rating.
It's like
on,
$5 or $6 to rent.
Yeah, so it's something I'm going to check out.
So it seems like
when I
some
can.
kind of a fresh take on the rape revenge
yeah,
movie.
which I don't love.
yeah, the rape.
Rape movies. I don't.
So it is a rape revenge.
That's
I don't
essentially-
know. I don't know if there is a rape, but it's essentially just like a revenge film.
Yeah,
It doesn't
but I'm
lay out
really-
what exactly happens to spur the revenge.
I'm just really interested because I guess too, like since what we podcast about and a lot of the stuff we go over on Instagram and Twitter, I got targeted for the ads.
Yeah,
for it
'cause
and
I've seen them
stuff.
too.
So it's like, and I have Hulu, or one of the things I was watching where it had commercial, it was about that, and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of want to watch that now. So
Yeah,
that's
So
something
I'll
I'm
have
gonna
to
try
check
to check
that
out
out soon.
Yeah, I want to see that too. I was thinking about, I don't know if that spurred my thought on this, but like, why not just make a female-led revenge film where nothing like that happens? Like, make it like, I don't want to say Death Wish, but maybe she's saving her husband and kids. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's all you'd have to do
Well,
if you want to make
all-
like a female-centric one that doesn't just play on the same old trope of rape revenge or something
Yeah.
like that. You know,
or attempted rape revenge.
Yes,
or-
yeah.
Because that and like again, like that's
it
something,
just could be that. Who knows?
Yeah, like it's just something I'm not big on in movies.
Well, that movie's called Revenge. So you
Yeah.
assume something happens.
Yeah, something happens.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But it just
yeah, I don't
like,
know what happens in the beginning.
It's
but-
not that you can't make an interesting movie out of that premise. It's just it's something
been-
that is very exploited.
Well, and two,
And-
it's a very real thing that affects far more people than you would expect.
Well, like-
and to do it just for exploitative thrills, sometimes at a certain point is, either insensitive or just.
Well, it's been done so many times at this point too. It's not even creative
yeah,
anymore.
and everyone jumps to, especially like Game of Thrones is guilty of this, and different shows. They jump to rape as a way to raise the stakes and make
Yeah.
you more invested in
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's
and at a
why-
certain point, it's like, well, look, that's you don't have to do that. You can elicit that in other ways. You don't have to jump to this shorthand for emotional trauma.
Yeah. Well, that's what I really liked Your Next because it had a strong female lead that was motivated by things other than rape, and then she
Yeah.
like just spoiler like kills everybody, and so it was really cool. So hopefully this will be similar to that. Might be different motivations, but I'm interested in it's something that I've read some stuff on Rotten Tomatoes about it, and Martin Scorsese still hates Rotten Tomatoes because people get really mad if they make shitty movies and they get bad ratings and nobody watches them. And it's like, well, I mean, I do y'all trust Rotten Tomatoes for the most part?
I mean, I go in and read the individual blurbs, and then I might see who it's from. If
Yeah.
it sees it has a really high or really low. I mean, basically, if I'm interested in the movie, I at least click on it, and then I read the blurbs.
yeah.
And sometimes I'll click on the review. A lot of times I don't click on the review because my mind is made up because I don't want to know much about the
Yeah, I
film.
don't wanna know
And I'll
much
see like who posted this. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
kind of know some of
Well-
the critics and their maybe opinions on things.
Because a lot of times what I do these days for things I'm interested in seeing, I like to go in spoiler averse and not know anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just a lot of times will look on Twitter for people who I follow that generally I align with their opinions, and they're like, tweet answer, like they either usually like recommend or don't recommend a movie. Say I like it or I don't.
Well,
I was thinking about that on the way here. Like, people that say, hey, it's stupid to, I get aggregating reviews is dangerous because some people just think, oh, it's they live or die by it if they don't understand how Rotten Tomatoes works.
Yeah.
And they don't actually dig into it and they just see a score.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that's not the Bible. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Well, and a movie that gets 100% doesn't mean it's the best movie of all time. It just means 100% of people said things are positive.
Yeah, it was favorable.
But it could be 100% people saying 6 out of 10.
But
let's just be fair. There are some like this is different, but like going to hotels when we go on vacations, it'll be like a 1-star review. And like they have nothing but good things to say about it.
Yeah.
So like you can have stuff that like people may accidentally give it a negative review, but say
they say this hotel was really nice for what it cost, and everything was nice.
1 star,
2 stars because it wasn't as nice as the $10,000 night hotel I stayed at in
it's
Dubai.
just all that's kind of.
So I get to, and there are a lot of people say, hey, you shouldn't rate art like that because it means something different for everybody. But at the same time, like that all sounds well and great if I had unlimited time and unlimited money.
Yeah.
I could sit there and just watch movies all day and just discover films, and I could be fine watching a film that kind of just does something differently that doesn't engage me. Like that would be all cool, but when I have limited time to watch a movie, especially going to the theaters, limited money to rent all, you know what I mean? Like, if I was a film director who made that my career and my thing was to watch movies and you know what I mean? Like, obviously I would be like, oh, I don't really need to rent. I just need to find some stuff out about films. I want to discover them, but that's not how like 75% of the people, consume films. I don't say consume, but that's what it is.
We were talking about. I know y'all have the Movie Pass. I don't really want to.
I do.
Yeah, you do. The only reason why I'm out of Movie Pass is for me. Like I'm very much structured. Like if I'm going to movies, I get my tickets ahead of time because I'm sitting in the same seats because I don't like I don't like Movie Pass because you can't do that. But like Rotten Tomatoes is one of those things where it's like I think it gets a little too much. And then because there might be a movie that comes out that actually is good, but it's like the critic base is a little off on it.
Well, there's a lot of
like
things.
you can have like Avengers Infinity War.
Go ahead and say X-Men Apocalypse.
No, it wasn't good. But like you look at Infinity War, that movie's like at 80%. And it's like, do I think that is... It hurts me to say this. So I think it's better than Last Jedi. Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, like,
but you wouldn't know that by looking at.
Well, too. The other thing is with a lot of these like review aggregators. Look at something like John Carpenter's The Thing. When it came out, it was pretty critically lambasted and given bad reviews.
Yeah, but on there, it's
over
really
time
high.
it shifted and the views are positive. So there's a lot of movies that could be more like divisive in nature.
Yeah.
And then the opinion on them kind of changes over time.
I mean,
Well,
like you
like,
said, the most important thing is to seek out people who you share similar opinions of. And you aren't just doing a blanket like,
well, I'll be
you know what I
really
mean?
interested-
Rotten Tomatoes score.
Because correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the Rotten Tomatoes reviews for Solo and Deadpool come out Monday. I know at least they come out for Deadpool.
At least the
reactions.
what's it called?
The reviews. I know they're.
Yeah, I know. What's it called whenever you have a
Embargo?
The embargo list.
I think
I
it's
don't
on
think
both
I don't
of
think that the so here's the thing with the Rotten Tomatoes, they came under fire for with it was either Justice League or Suicide Squad or something.
They even did they wait till like Wednesday of the week.
I think they wait till Thursday because
Which is bullshit.
They have a
Release it on
Thursday
Monday.
show, and people thought initially they were holding the reviews on Justice League to help its box office or something because they thought it was going to get bad reviews. But
And we're recording this on was it May
13th,
May 13th,
Mother's Day.
So what comes out this Friday? Is it Deadpool or
Deadpool.
Solo? And then the week after is Solo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure both of them because they had their press screenings sometime this
Yeah.
week. So I'm pretty sure last week or this week, whatever. I'm pretty sure they both come out Monday. I'm interested to see what. Because everything I've read on Deadpool so far sounds really good. I mean, there's going to be people and everything that shit on it, just like any movie ever. Because like as good
Or it's
as,
just not their thing. If
yeah,
they
it
don't
was
like
like
that
as good
humor.
as Get Out was. I'm not saying Deadpool being anywhere near as good as Get Out, but like people shit on that movie too. It was a very small amount of people, but sometimes you just, I guess people don't get it or it's not your thing. But I just interested on the phenomenon because I catch myself doing it now too. Where like I do care about what a movie gets if I like it. You know, I don't. So it's just one of those things where it's like kind of an arbitrary, in my opinion, meaningless statistic. But I guess if you're like somebody like me or you or William, it's like I'm not gonna go spend. It's hard for me to justify spending $100 plus going to the movie because by the time you go and pay for 2 tickets and get a drink, you're almost at $30. And do that 2 or 3 times a month, well, you're damn near 100. And it's like, do I really want to, at the end of the year, spend that much money on movies that aren't good? No. And So it is useful in that, but again, you can have a movie really lowly rated that's actually good, or a really highly rated movie that's bad. It just depends on the critics and all
the
that
director.
stuff.
Maybe you're like,
Yeah.
hey, most people don't like this director's stuff, but I like one thing they do, or they, if they're weird enough, or they do something that,
But again, like a high Rotten Tomatoes or a low tomato score does not predict box office success. More often, because there are like Suicide Squad did terrible at Rotten Tomatoes and made a lot of money, whereas Blade Runner did really good and didn't make much.
I think a lot of franchise films, once you've had enough, once you have sequels and things, that does catch up to you eventually. People won't be fooled again. So, Sean, did you watch anything?
Yeah. So real quick, I'd watched Reality Bites for the first time, which is like counterculture film from '94, directed by Ben Stiller.
Okay, yeah.
Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke.
So that movie and Clerks are one that were big generational movies for a lot of people that are just slightly older than us.
And I had just always missed that film and never saw it. Really good.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it quite a bit. It's just fun watching films with Jimmy Garofalo. You know what I mean? Just that era of like that bygone era that was like, again, the
Gen X.
Yeah, the Gen X. It was a great little film. And Ben Stiller, like, I think Cable Guy is awesome. Tropic Thunder's also good. Like, he's a good director.
He directed Cable Guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I watched Election too, that has Matthew Broderick. You don't like him? You don't like Ferris Bueller?
Ferris Bueller is one of those movies like I watch, but I just find myself wanting to punch Ferris
I think
Bueller.
that is like maybe
It's
like
good. Like I enjoy it, but I still want
a
to punch
perfect
him.
film.
Yeah.
I think he's stellar. But I'd watched Election quite a bit when I was little because it was on TV all the time.
It's funny. There's always those movies that you watched all the time because it was on TV.
Yes.
One channel got the rights to it and they just played the hell out of
MTV
it.
produced it, so I think it was on MTV quite a bit, just like Jawbreakers.
Yeah, I've
and
seen
Joe's Apartment.
Yeah, I've seen Jawbreakers a lot.
So Reese Witherspoon. I don't know. Have you guys seen this movie before?
I've seen it. It's been a while.
Yeah,
heard of
it was. I don't remember what service it was on, but it is stellar. It's a really, really good film. Basically, she wants to win like a school election for class. Not class president, but SGA or whatever. And Chris Klein from like American Pie, he's in it. But yeah, Matthew Broderick is basically a teacher who kind of, he's a good person, but there are like events that transpire and he does not want her to be the class president because maybe he's afraid of certain situations. And also too, he's afraid she might like step on people. And so he like pins Chris Klein against her to run. You know what I mean? So it's very...
What year did that come out?
99.
Okay, I was saying because I was wondering how far removed that was from Ferris Bueller because it'd be really weird if it came out like 91.
Oh no,
or
yeah,
something.
no, it's stellar.
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah,
really
I was like rating it on this letterbox. I give it a 5-star. Like I think it is great. And then I watched Streets of Fire, which was a film like Nathan Thomas Miller, friend of ours, loves.
Yeah.
That has. I was happy to see Rick Moranis is in that. Diane Lane, Willem Dafoe, Bill Paxton. It's got a good cast. It's
Game over, man.
It opens up saying something like "at another time, in another place," and it's thing we've talked about before. Where we're in the 80s, just like now we're obsessed with the 80s. They were obsessed with the 50s.
Yeah.
So it's not the 50s, but it's almost like a
alternate version.
yeah, it's almost like a mixture of New York in the 80s mixed with the 50s because things are very run down. There's graffiti. Not quite the Warriors level, but a little bit,
Yeah.
But there seem like there's like basically a street gang, and there's like a really bad part of town that Willem Dafoe, I guess, kind of runs. And the music is very much an integral part of it. Sometimes some of the action scenes in the intro almost cut like a music video, like they'll cut out like part of the action. It's kind of cool. They definitely go for it as far as the editing goes on some of the flashier moments. But the lead character. The thing I didn't like about the lead character basically starts out a badass, and so he has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
He doesn't really learn or do anything. Like, he's fine, but I do like Rick Moranis and Willem Dafoe. Like, everybody around him is pretty good. And he's fine, too. But he's just not... I don't know. Something about him... You don't gravitate towards him as a leading man. You know, like something like Schwarzenegger or The Rock or something like that. Like, he has a good voice, but I feel like if they would have had... I don't know, if he would have had a little bit more magic to him,
More charisma.
it would have been, a stronger film. But it also leans heavily into the music. Like Diane Lane, she has like at least 2 extended music performances on stage, and they just play the whole song. Like, it is, it has a different vibe. Like, the film kind of beats its own drum. And that was pretty much it. Like, I watched Justice League for the first time and did not think that was that good as much as I liked Batman vs. Superman, as most people don't. Like, Justice League, I thought that was pretty limp and a little boring. Yeah. And I almost wonder if, they say, hey, this is Zack Snyder's film still, but part of it feels like it just has a little bit less flair.
Well, there's the Zack Snyder director's cut truthers.
Yeah,
who think that his cut is amazing and Joss Whedon ruined it as an inside job for Marvel as a double agent.
Yeah, like I don't, and maybe because this film had to pack so much into this time, like maybe he did have some more moments of flair. Yeah. But also that doesn't help the story at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, but like I think Batman vs. Superman had some like really cool. Like I love the opening sequence of that film when like the pearls fly or whatever, and it turns into a bullet or something. Like,
there were some really good elements of Batman vs. Superman. It was just I think the problem with it was it was a little long in the teeth.
Yeah,
or a little long in the tooth.
It had long teeth.
Yeah, it had long teeth, and it just
like
there's a lot of stuff they could have trimmed out of it.
Yeah, and again, like the stuff to trim out maybe would have made it a better film, but almost the film that was there maybe wasn't that good. So it's like I almost like the visual flair because at least it's something because he does that well, and this film cut that out, which is fine because it is a easier watch in some regards. It's more straightforward, and there are a couple good sequences still, especially like the Wonder Woman's island or whatever. Yeah. And she's not even on it at the time, but the all of her people, like that's a really good sequence, I think. But it's just a little, I don't know, it's a little boring. The main villain's not compelling. He's just a blanket evil person that wants to like take over worlds. You know what I mean? He's just very boring.
The bad thing is, too, there's still an Aquaman movie to come out this year.
I mean, I have no we'll see how that we'll see how that goes. So the one other thing I watched too was Tiny Toons, a special called Night Ghoulery. I had never seen that as a kid. Like I loved How I Spent My Summer Vacation, but it's essentially it's like 45 minutes. It's on Hulu. It's kind of a Twilight Zone knockoff, like Babs Bunny. That's her name, right?
Or Babs.
Because Lola is the female from.
You're talking about like essentially the Muppet Baby version.
Yes, Lola is from what's the hell is the basketball?
Space Jam.
Space Jam. Yeah. Babs is she's doing a Rod Sterling impression basically, and it's an anthology.
Yeah, I can't remember because it used to be a Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. That show.
Yeah. I watched it all the time on Nickelodeon, but I'd never seen this special.
It was Nickelodeon.
So they basically do like Telltale Heart. They do like a Casper.
That sounds familiar.
I've seen
a little Ghostbuster gag. Another thing they did was, Spielberg produced this, and apparently they're bringing back Animaniacs, but I've heard talks like, how are they going to do this? Because they spent so much money on the animation back then, they just can't do that now. Yeah. And they were able to do it too because Spielberg had that backing. You know what I mean? Like, think about his hype.
That was him in
Jurassic Park and all that.
Indiana Jones, Jaws, Jurassic Park.
They threw a lot of weight behind Animaniacs and Tiny Toon Adventures, which Animaniacs came after that. But one of the sequences in this special is a parody of Duel, the first Steven Spielberg film, which is very. That's what I liked about those shows. They were very specific references.
Oh yeah,
and but it's called Fuel, and it's like the baby Wile E. Coyote getting chased by a semi, and there's a moment in Duel when like a phone booth gets run over and he almost gets hit. Well, in this one, like it gets run over, and then at the end of it, it's like the Roadrunners inside the semi truck. Like it's like there's like weirdly specific things, and they do like a Night of the Living Dead. That's called Night of the Living Dull, and like it's supposed to be, I don't know, like boring people or whatever. And one of the people that like are in the house trying to get in is this giant guy wearing a shirt and a hat that says world's biggest Tiny Toon Adventures fan. And then he's asking questions like, so I noticed there was like an animation flicker on this certain episode, like episode whatever. He's like, was that an intentional in-joke or was that an animation error? Like it's so weird to break down fan culture in 95 like that. Like you see that stuff exist online now, but it's just like that's what I liked about those shows. They were so specific,
and they were very aware.
Yes, like those shows were great.
Because you have like the web culture today where it's like, oh, well, if you watch The Shining in reverse and forwards at the same time, it hits this moment.
Yeah, like the guy was droning on, and they were like, it was supposed to be like dull people. It's like making fun of their own.
See, I remember Animaniacs a little bit better because that was like
after
Fox morning cartoons and stuff. But
phone calls.
Yeah, Tiny Toons I loved, and then Animaniacs was awesome. And then like another of the segments was they did also Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
And then they did the Twilight Zone segment and from the movie where somebody's on an airplane, with
Yeah,
the
see,
cow.
that's the one I remember.
Yeah.
Because I think in it, like Little Bugs is watching and freaking out.
Yeah.
And William Shatner impersonation. But that was Animaniacs thing. I can't remember.
Yeah.
They also had somebody make fun of they're talking about producers, like movie producers and stuff, and TV producers being like making bad decisions or something. And then a producer pops up and he says, like, I still say the Chevy Chase show could work. Like, there's so many specific references in those shows. But
Chevy
yeah,
Chase.
it wasn't like stellar, but it's if you like Tiny Toons when you were younger and missed that one, like it was like on Hulu. It's 45 minutes. It's an easy watch because there's a lot of segments and most of them are no more than like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So. And that was pretty much it. I watched some stuff I've seen before, but
Yeah, so we'll move into our discussion of A Nightmare on Elm Street for the Dream Master. So looking at the box office numbers for this, so the highest grossing movie was Freddy vs. Jason, which domestic numbers, not worldwide, because they don't have good worldwide reporting for a lot of the older movies. Freddy vs. Jason made $82 million. The 2010 remake made $63 million. The Dream Master made $49 million. Dream Warriors made $44 million. Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare made 34. Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge made 29.9. Nightmare on Elm Street made 25. Nightmare on Elm Street 5: The Dream Child made 22, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare made 18. And adjusting that for inflation, the order would still be Freddy vs. Jason at 1, then A Nightmare on Elm Street 4: Dream Master, then Dream Warriors, then Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, then Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge, then the 2010 remake, then the original, then the Dream Child, then New Nightmare. So
a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. I was just saying, like, for context.
or New Nightmare.
Yeah, well,
That's
the
a good movie.
But I think that was probably
Ahead of its
during
time.
that, and there's probably some fatigue there.
So
and
you-
that was a different take on Freddy than what was popular like in this movie.
Yeah, so Nightmare on Elm Street 4, the Dream Master. So it was the trend that you saw a lot with. You saw it between Friday the 13th 1 and 2, and then you saw it with this movie, and you've seen it with other like Halloween 4 and 5, because this movie came out in '88, where the surviving characters, we're doing full spoilers for Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And they're all on Hulu now, too. So you don't have the DVD or Blu-rays. They're all on Hulu to watch as well. But those movies had the trend of the surviving character or characters from the prior movie would die at the beginning and then handed off to new characters. So, like, this movie had recast the role that was originally Patricia Arquette in Dream Warriors with a different actress, because I think at the time Patricia Arquette was pregnant and or didn't want to come back, which... she went on to have like a successful big time career. Not that some of the actors in these different movies didn't, but just a little bit different.
Yeah, Johnny Depp in the first one.
But so you had what was her
At
name?
this point, Johnny Depp will be doing Nightmare on Elm Street film before it's over with. Wait.
So he was
as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he was in part 5 as like something on TV.
Yeah.
So
I
like a
really
small
want to see
cameo.
him as Freddy Krueger, but the Freddy Krueger that is the Pirates of the Caribbean version.
Yeah, so was it
Jack Sparrow, the Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, so in this movie you had Tuesday Night playing the character instead of Patricia Arquette. So you
That
had
has
her
to be a
playing
fake
Kristen.
Tuesday Night's a good name.
Yeah, but it just has to be fake.
So what are you gonna do tomorrow? Tuesday night. So I would assume that joke was something that she heard quite often, and it is interesting to go back and see that like you had to switch off between Patricia Arquette to somebody else, and two. So the thing I'll say about Dream Master is I'm like the other ones I need to rewatch too, but this one just feels so quintessentially 80s.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
got the film stock that looks 80s and kind of dark.
Yeah, it looks
It's
80s,
got ADR for everything. Because like Lethal Weapon had a bunch of ADR. A lot of those movies in the era had ADR. I guess because they shot stuff partially outdoors or anywhere in LA at that point in time. The equipment wasn't at the point where it was easy to fix it. So everything just had to be shot ADR or, be shot on set and then just ADR later where they would record the dialogue over it, because it was really noticeable that it was all ADR. And you had, MTV references and music.
When this had like a big MTV push too, there's a bunch of commercials.
And Freddy was wearing Ray-Bans.
Yeah, Ray-Ban Freddy.
And then they had pizza. And you had all these elements that just made it very, very 80s. And it was directed by Rennie Harlan. So if you remember Rennie Harlan, he also directed the Die Hard sequel. He directed Die Hard 2, and he had directed a lot of stuff that like felt very specific to that time and era. I don't think many of his movies age well and play well.
I mean, the
and-
thing is though, like this movie, and me and Sean were talking about this, and I probably talked to you about this. The first time I watched this movie, I bought like the 4 collection set of 1 through 4.
Yeah.
I was getting my security system put in, and like the network for ADT was down, so me and the install guy watched half of 3 in this, and like so we never watched 4, and we were just kind of like 4 is not okay. Like compared to because we just covered Halloween 2, this movie does not have a lack of memorable scenes. Because you got the beach scene, you got Ray-Ban Freddy, you got the pizza scene, you got the cockroach, which is probably one of my favorite kills in the series. Because the arm break is just so gross and like
it feels like a very like post The Fly.
yeah, it's pretty good and like
And then the Karate Kid.
Yeah,
like
the
post
Karate Kid, oh my
post
God.
The Fly. Like,
Yeah.
what are some big movies that recently been box office hits?
It's like Rennie Harlan, so he directed Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master, Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, Cutthroat Island, The Long Kiss Goodnight, Deep Blue Sea,
it's scary. We need to cover that.
and then was it part of The Exorcist that came out in the early 2000s, the beginning? Because that was like directed by 2 different people. And
So, what did your cable guy think of the movie?
I mean, I think me and him was the AGT guy.
yeah.
We both enjoyed it. It was just one of those things where like because he was between like probably our y'all are 5 years older than me. He's just around there. It was just kind of funny that we watch that because usually most of those people are kind of squares and they come over and they do stuff. But
Squares.
well, they're just like you don't want to be like, hey, you can sit down and watch this movie because they go and they got in the
I
truck.
had a Time Warner guy come over to fix my internet or whatever, and we were talking about Google Fiber or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I don't know when this is supposed to. He's like, yeah, man, he said I got Google Fiber at my place. He's a Time Warner guy, and he was telling me like, hey, yeah, you need to get that.
Well, don't reveal his name or they'll fire him.
But it's just always kind of funny to meet people that are actually personable like that. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like, I'm not saying it's a great movie. It does get kind of boring because I watched it.
Well,
and
and-
I've seen this several times. I watched it yesterday, and there's certain scenes that get kind of boring in it.
Again, you know,
I'm not a big fan of the lead in this one.
Well, they do the lead switcheroo.
Yeah, the lead switch.
I mean, again, I talked about in the last podcast, like the thing that a lot of the slasher films did was like, hey, people love these crazy kills. Let's pack it full of that. But then they forget to make the storyline continue to progress forward. You know what I mean? Like they just like, okay, we're going to have a little break here, or every now and then cut to somebody getting killed.
Well,
like a cool sequence, but what does it mean for the story? Like,
well,
what,
and,
you know,
and something too that I think that because I was reading something that was like a review of some of these slasher movies, and I was referencing like what Roger Ebert had said about Halloween. He said like the 3 lead characters in Halloween were teenage girls, and they all had personality and spunk, and they had something you could kind of remember about them. And in this movie, when you switch from the lead character from like Kristen to Alice, it just kind of happens like mid movie.
Yeah.
And
plus, too, I'm not picking on these actors and actresses in this film, but you do have a drop off from you had like Nancy in the last one,
when you go from when you go from Heather Langenkamp and Patricia Arquette,
and then you have like the cool junkyard scene with the dad fighting Freddy and
John Saxon,
John Saxon, who's pretty cool himself. Like, and you go to this one, you don't really have any of that.
1, 2, you do the characters in from the prior movie when you kill off the other survivors.
Yeah.
Like Kincaid and what's the other guy's name? Let's see, Joey. So you kill off Joey and Kincaid, and then you kill off Kristen. Like you're like, oh, okay, you can kind of tell where they're going with it. Yeah. And 2, the other things like the friend, was it Debbie, the one that got killed and turned into the bug?
Yeah, Debbie.
You never see the aftermath of her death. And that would have been interesting to see, like, what gruesome real life thing happened.
I think in this movie, though, correct me if I'm wrong, like, because they got away from them actually having physical harm to them in the real world, from what I remember, like, in this second one. Because, like, in the third one, in the Dream Warriors, when they killed people, even if they died really gruesomely in the dream, they were just dead.
They just died.
They didn't. Where in the first one, they actually received physical harm. And in the second. But it seems like in the third and fourth, they kind of got away from that. Because, like, in the fifth one, it's like where a guy's, like, driving. I always get that confused because in the fifth one, a guy's, like, on a motorcycle and it fuses to him. But in the real, and like a girl is in a dream and she gets like deflated, but in the classroom she just dies.
Yeah.
So like
that was in the fourth one.
That was I get them
this
confused.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, with her asthma.
But like that gets because in this one they just
Well, but then the one Joey wakes up, so he's in bed in the water bed, and then there's the naked girl under it, and he's like, "Ooh!" And then Freddy just like kind of stabs him. And then his mom comes in the room, and he's in the water bed under the like inside of it.
yeah.
So you have that.
So the rules really kind of are whatever they wanted to be at the time.
What was it the Kristen's house catches on fire or whatever?
Yeah. But
So
like
you have like I'm just saying like to me I wanted to see the aftermath of that because they had that cool creative death scene and they didn't like follow up on what the fallout was. In the real world.
I would just assume given the rules
She was
of
just
the
dead.
she was just
And
dead.
two, it keeps like, people not like acknowledging it's really Freddy. You know what I mean? There's only certain people. Like if people were like ripped in half all of a sudden, they'd be like,
Yeah.
something big is going on.
Yeah.
Whether they try to play it as like, hey, she had an asthma attack. You know what I mean? Like
because
certain
whereas
things just
like
happen to
in
these
the
people.
first one you had the one character that got strung up on the wall and cut up and she died.
Yeah.
And
Tina.
then, and then Johnny Depp got sucked in the bed and there's just blood everywhere. And then you had the guy that got hung in the jail cell and like everybody was getting killed by Freddy, but what happened to them in the dream had them in real life.
I mean-
whereas I wonder if that was like a budgetary thing they got away from because it might have been too expensive to do
Double up,
to
yeah.
double up. And
Well, it might
I
have
think
been
that's
timing, too.
Yeah, timing. But I think a lot of that probably was like, which is again budgetary because it'd
Yeah.
be more time, more money. So I wonder if that's why they went all out in some of the sequences of the deaths, but the aftermath is just them just kind of dead.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
mean,
cut out all the sequences so you just see what happens in the real world.
Yeah.
And it's the most boring slasher film.
Because like like I said, like a lot of these movies blend together, and I watched most of them all through this week, and even watched the fifth one because I just have that one on DVD. So like I keep seeing the motorcycle in this one. I kept waiting for the guy who was a dirt bike, and I was like, he's gonna get the dirt bike, but he never did because that guy makes it.
so was it? So the basic idea is that Kristen has the ability to bring people into her dreams,
Yeah.
and then that's what allows Freddy to kill people again,
and then she gets their power,
and then she transfers the power to Alice in
Before
the
he
dream
sucks her soul
before she gets killed.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, like at the end, Alice uses the powers of everybody, so she does karate. And,
Which look,
Yeah.
the guy they picked to be the karate kid in this is like looks like you could beat him up with.
But I kind of liked him. At least he had some personality.
Yeah,
in
he
the
had
film.
personality, but just
like
funny
he
'cause,
was
like,
at
you
least
could
like,
beat him
okay,
up.
this is somebody I can kind of pay attention to and is entertaining on screen.
Yeah, and he had a really 80s, 90s hair.
The thing, like aside, it's like a Nightmare on Elm Street 1, there was a pretty defined like Nancy booby trapped the house, and that was her plan to destroy him. It feels like in a lot of these movies, the way they kill Freddy is just like a Deus Ex Machina, like what's just some
Again,
way
yeah,
to.
it's just-
He's gonna look at himself in the mirror and
I liked her friend, like her nerdy friend, that kind of reminds me of a Chipette for some reason. That with the big glasses, Like, I
Yeah.
think she was good and entertaining too. And then she gives her that device that
Yeah.
she uses, and then he just heals back from it or whatever. Like that's just.
I liked Freddy's death in this one
Yeah.
because, they like obviously full of spoilers. They just rip his head in half, and then you got all the people crawling out of him. And,
Yeah, that was
like,
a cool. That was kind of a cool element with him sucking in the souls, and then her giving the quote unquote power. Like I don't know if it should have been like literally her doing karate and stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean that was so 80s though.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
but it's almost like which one was the telekinesis? Friday the 13th.
Oh, part 7.
7?
It was the one
Yeah.
after.
5 wasn't Fred Jason.
Yeah, 5 was New Blood.
Yeah.
Then you had Jason Lives, and then it was the
Yeah,
next
and
one was.
it's almost like that where it's like, okay, let's bring in another weird element to it, which I appreciate that kind of, but it didn't pay off
I
that
think
well. I don't
with
think.
me though on this one, and because I think the third one is my favorite overall, but on this one I think my biggest issue is like in the third one and even in the first one, not so the second because the second one was kind of different on the way they did the kills and stuff. But like there was usually 1 or 2 deaths to me where I actually liked those characters. Like I didn't really want to see him die that way because like Johnny Depp, you like him and he dies in a pretty horrific way, and the girl in the beginning I can't think of her name. And like in the third one, the death I think that always reminds me the most is like the girl that has the mohawk and the switchblade that had the drug issues where he kills her by making her OD in the dream. Like that kind of bothered you a little bit. I kind of like her.
well, this one and Nancy.
Yeah, and Nancy, but this one doesn't have that because these are all kind of throwaway. Like Debbie really didn't do much in the
they're all just
movie.
kind of new
They're all kind
characters.
of new characters, but new's not the issue. The issue is you don't care about.
Well, there's
it.
there's too
fodder.
many. So
There's too
you have
many.
the original character. You have the part 3 characters. They're in the beginning that you're supposed to have some connection to.
Yeah, and they kill
then
them
they
really
transfer and they
fast.
kill them off pretty quickly and transfer over to the new characters. But you get so little time with them, you don't really connect on any level.
So they're just essentially there to die. I mean, obviously the highlights to me in this movie are Ray-Ban Freddy, where I really love when
He's on the
see-
beach.
Well, I love the shark fin scene because you see
Yeah.
the claws come out and it goes all the way to the beach. That was cool. Like that was really
Yeah.
good. And I kept thinking he was put the Ray-Bans on and said bitch, but he doesn't. Because I really thought that's what happened. Because like we were talking when I was, it's like kind of like that was his thing. Like he calls everybody a bitch at some point. And I thought he'd be like bitch and puts the glasses on. But I do kind of like it better where he's just kind of silent and he puts the glasses on and then he starts chasing after. And I love the Freddy run. He always does a run with the glove in the air, and it's like I like that better because that was just because it was always Robert Englund.
Yeah.
But at least like with him, he had a consistent thing. Whereas like with your portrayals of Michael Myers and Jason, everybody kind of did their own
and
thing.
also too, like they didn't have a strong personality to begin with, so then
Yeah.
it's like they didn't have a strong identity. You
Yeah,
know what
and I
mean?
think that's why
their identity was the mask,
Yeah.
and that was it.
I think that's why
Sometimes those
Freddy
were bad.
maybe culturally was a little more accepted with MTV stuff because of that, because he had a little more of a
Yeah.
personality.
And he talked.
He talked, and you had the same actor portraying him up until.
Well, speaking of just the popularity and stuff, something I forgot to mention: the intro to the Tiny Toons special.
Yeah.
they showed it's some of the original intro, but then they also cut in like Buster and Babs are like zombies, and then Plucky, the Daffy Duck small one, he is Freddy throughout the intro. So it's like a little duck as
Yeah.
a Freddy Krueger.
Well,
That's how big
yeah.
that was that time.
Is it-
The kids
and-
special.
yeah, it just-
had
you kind
Freddy
of-
in the intro.
Because there are Freddy dolls and toys and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And like I think that's one reason why I kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise a little bit more than Halloween and Friday the 13th, because it just seems like it's the first four I like. Then when you get out of that, I don't care.
It's
much
almost
for
like a
it.
good blend of being a little goofy,
Yeah.
but also still taking itself,
Yeah.
not being
But I
totally
think-
jumping the shark.
yeah.
I mean, I guess it kind of does, but
It does
Yeah,
later.
but Robert Englund anchors it, so
Yeah.
even if they're bad, you can at least look forward to Robert Englund popping up on screen.
And whereas like third's my favorite, and we talked about this on the podcast when we covered it. Like the third was where they did kind of like the balancing act of being serious and goofy, and they kind of did it both to where they could go with either way they wanted. And then they kind of tipped the scales to go a little more goofy. So from here on out, that's where you see it not because like the first one was straight horror. And there still was a little bit of humor because, like, if he pulls his face off and does something, and
Yeah.
so there still was a little bit of that, but it just wasn't as scary. It wasn't toying with the victims. It was just kind of more
It's
goofy.
hard to keep up in the ante. Like, you can, again, think of more creative kills, but that
Yeah.
only gets you so far. Like, I get it. That's why a lot of people love these films, and they are cool.
They have the most
But-
creative kills
But
of
you
Friday
you see it
13th.
once and you're like, okay, the second rewatch of this is those kills are still cool. But now I'm looking for the movie. You know what I mean? And so I think doing something different with Freddy is smart, and making him fun is totally
Having
fine
him
to
wearing
me,
Ray-Bans on
because
the
he's not
beach
going to be
is-
that threatening. You can't be that scary for 8 films or whatever.
The other scene we didn't talk about was the pizza scene.
Yeah.
And like to me, that is really good
Or
because
the sausage or the topping is just
'cause
the souls of his
and he
victims.
stabs one of them, and like that was cool. And when he takes a bite of it, and all the stuff shoots out of it. That's
Yeah.
like really gross. So and I love the nurse scene too, and like it's Robert Englund dressed as a
Yes, that's
Yeah.
kind of like, I feel like that's almost like
And
the
wasn't
first
it
big reveal, right?
The lady from the Ghostbusters when it was actually the nurse, like the receptionist.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was her because she looked really familiar. And it's like it kind of sounds like her.
But so something I've heard people say like pretty consistently is so that franchise, it depended on when people came into it, what their thoughts on it were. Because if somebody saw the first one when they were a young kid,
Yeah.
like 10 or under in the 80s, and they saw the first one, it probably scared them shitless. And they're like, oh, Freddy's so scary. But if they go in from like part 3 on, he's more of like a funny icon.
Yeah.
And they don't see those movies as scary, they see them as fun.
Where did you guys come in on it? Do you remember?
For me, William's obviously a little older than me. Freddy was always supposed to be a scary guy because that's like you went into haunted houses. He was in there, and I really feel like at one point one of the haunted houses we always talk about Michael Myers with the chainsaw, or no, Jason with the chainsaw, and I feel like Because my first impression of Freddy was Nightmare Forest. You had to get on the school bus and
Yes.
walk through it, and he's in there.
People were telling me about that before I even went there.
Yeah, and
because it's such a
that's
big
my
thing
first
here in
impression of
town.
him, which that was more from the second movie.
Yeah.
Because that was the only time he's on a school bus. So
Well, they find these iconic things people are aware of and just reuse them.
But
ad
that's
nauseam.
to me, Freddy was always supposed to be a scary character because he had the hat and the gloves, and he would chase you on a school bus. You
Well, I
know?
remember like the thing I remember more than the movies because I didn't really watch those more until I was in like high school. The thing I remember more about Freddy was back when I don't know if they do these everywhere across the country. I assume they do like danger runs where you go to like multiple haunted houses and you get clues and whatever. When I was younger, like my dad's family was going to go to one, and they had like one of the uncles had a big van, so a bunch of us went. And then there's a few of us that are younger kids that didn't go into the haunted houses. We just stayed in the van with like somebody who didn't want to go in. So we just went on the haunted run or whatever. And one of my cousins had came out and said that the Freddy Krueger scratched her with the claws or something. And then like my other aunt Peter Pants or something. So that to me, it was always like that Freddy was scary at haunted houses. And then I had seen the first movie first. And seen that all the way through. So I had always thought that was my favorite of the series. And I never really watched the later sequels because I didn't really care for them as much when it started going to be more goofy.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think I probably watched the later one first. I don't know. I don't know if I saw part of it like on TV or what, but like I watched the Halloween films later. You know, and then you guys watched it when you were younger.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street are the ones that I would like rent from the store. You know, like for some reason I just wasn't as aware of Halloween. Like I hadn't seen it, so it was never like a blind rent for me.
Yeah.
But Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street, the one I remember the most, or the scene I remember the most was from like one of the later ones where a Q-tip goes into somebody's ear.
Yeah.
And I remember that being like, oh man, like that had like a physical reaction. That it was never scary, but as a kid, I just watched this stuff for the gore.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that ever scared me as a kid when I was really young, like probably like 2 or 3, the commercials for Child's Play.
Yeah, I
That freaked
remember.
me out.
Yeah.
That freaked me out. I remember one time being really upset one night, but other than that, I was fine. And then Poltergeist, it wasn't so scary. I didn't want to watch it, but like the static scene, because I just remember being a little kid watching TV alone. You know what I mean? And it being super late. Like Poltergeist was creepy and scary. And that was pretty much it. Like none of the Friday 13th or Nightmare, like I watched those for gore when I was about 6 or 7 on, you know?
The thing I think that, and this might be more true for me than you all, I don't know. But like these don't get a bunch of TV circulation. Not like, especially when I was younger, because you always had
The first one does, but the rest of them don't.
But even that though, like, I'm sorry I referenced AMC Fear Fest, but back like when I was like 13, that was like the shit because they had a bunch of good movies.
Yeah.
And now it
they-
seems like it's mostly just Halloween 4 and 5.
yeah, and just crappier stuff. But like, you know, 10. God, I'm 27 now. So like 15 years ago, 14 years ago, it was really good. But that's where I watched Halloween. And you know, me and you and my mom used to always rent like this was the one we didn't watch, so it had a little bit. I'm trying to think of the right word, but it was like
Mystery?
Yeah, it was a little more
Because we rented all the Friday the 13th.
more mysterious, and it seemed
Yeah, 'cause
creepier.
I think when I watched it on TV too, it wasn't like, I think it was like Encore or Stars. It was one of the cable movie channels, I think, where I would catch it occasionally.
Yeah.
Because I didn't
I
see
feel like
this
this was
on like
more
a
like-
normal thing.
I feel like this was more like you said, like Stars, HBO,
yeah.
something. It was not on
That's why I
AMC.
started renting
It
those,
wasn't
I
on
think.
FX.
So something else I remember. So Corey, who's been on the podcast before and some of our short films and stuff, when we were kids. So whenever that movie came out, New Nightmare, like 93 or so, we were like 7 or 8, or at oldest would have been like 9. But I think it was like 8 or 7. We convinced my dad to rent Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. So the last one before the reboot, and then Freddy vs. Jason. So I convinced him to rent that, and then we didn't actually get to watch it because Corey ended up like getting sick and going home or something. And then I didn't necessarily want to watch it with anybody else to watch it with. And I think my mom and dad maybe watched it before we took it.
Oh, I thought you said they made you. You're watching this movie in this room.
No, I think they might have watched it, but I didn't.
yeah.
So I remembered like thinking that movie is incredibly scary, and like
It has
that-
a little mysticism to it. I can't talk.
And then I
but,
didn't
yeah.
see it until
There's mythic
later.
qualities. Yeah, and I think that's the thing as a kid. Like we've talked about this a lot, and obviously everybody does. Is you build up your own movie in your head,
And you get
And
scared about
you
stuff
get
because other
scared
people
about
talk
it.
it up.
and then you watch. You're
That's
like,
how it was with Child's Play. I just saw the
Yeah.
commercials when
Yeah.
I was very young. But like for me too, going into the Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, like when you see the movie
The
covers,
covers, yeah.
like
Yeah.
Freddy is a cool looking character.
Yeah.
You know, especially Jason too. That mask. Michael Myers is fine, but he's not as flashy. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
and
he doesn't-
that's why
and I think that's why I never rented those.
And
when
I keep
was younger.
comparing stuff to that. I think it's a little unfair because like Halloween, the first one's really good. The third one I enjoy, which is not Michael Myers. They're just like it's not it's a good food, but it's not spicy. You know,
well,
like you
like,
can get it, and it's like a cheese.
a guy in a-
Halloween is cheese pizza.
a
You
guy-
can't really do it wrong.
A guy in
but
a
it's not that
mask
good.
killing people, you know, can be scary for a little bit, but once you've seen it enough, if there's no twist to it or
Yeah.
nothing, it can still be entertaining, but there's not like a driving force.
If I was gonna put something on, just for example, like the ADT guy, like if I was gonna have if I had people over and I was gonna watch something, Nightmare on Elm Street are more enjoyable.
The only thing is, like, I think so. You know, a lot of people are such fans of that series and Robert Englund that they'll never be able to make those movies with anybody but him and be acceptable.
But see,
So-
I'm
but
not
the
that
effects,
ridiculous
though, I
about it.
think if you were to show this to like a 15-year-old audience or okay, just to be age appropriate, a 17-year-old audience today, they probably would be pretty turned off by the effects and the look of it. I
don't know,
think.
but I think there's so much stuff. Like I will say, like I got bored with Halloween 2. I'm not saying that Nightmare on Elm Street doesn't have boring moments, but this movie is definitely, because of the MTV affiliation and a lot of stuff, feels more like a music video type.
Yeah,
of,
it looks good.
It
It
looks
looks
good.
great.
It moves. There's a lot of stuff going on, and this movie was made for a teenage audience. And it knew the teenage audience. I'm not saying it holds up or whatever. I'm saying, but you could tell this
Yeah.
movie was made to keep the attention of 17-year-olds.
Yeah, they're trying to
and it did that very
entertain
well.
a group of people in
Yeah.
the theater watching it together, which is fine if you've got
And
some flashy
actually,
kill scenes.
one of the parts I love is when she's in the movie theater and she falls asleep and it sucks her into the movie.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was good. But this movie to me is like the music video of horror movies because it just kind of moves up really fast. There's every single thing is different. I'd be interested too to like know if any actual music videos influenced some of the
Well,
stuff.
like I would wonder, like Rennie Harlan was like visually pulling from. Well, too, like overall the the Nightmare on Elm Street series to me, it's always fun. I think it's more fun than the other ones.
Yeah.
But I do think that the problem that a lot of movies from the 80s and 90s even suffered from is you have like a mythical bad guy or evil entity, and the way that you kill it is you wish and think, or you show them a mirror, or you come up with some like weird thing that kind of breaks the pre-established rules, and then it works. So I think that was kind of the weak point for a lot of those movies, was that the way that they killed him or stopped Freddy was just kind of wishy-washy, like, well, that really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but that's the problem with a lot of these movies, and like we all
It'd be
know
like
this.
on Star Wars, if they kill Darth Vader, they're just like, we just have to think about defeating him, and we defeat him, and then they do.
It's one of those things where it's like all these movies, when you kill them, they ain't dead. They're gonna come back.
I mean, I like the way that a lot of the Friday the 13th films end more, because like you see Jason get an axe to the shoulder or whatever, and the next movie picks up with him like getting up and leaving, as opposed to the Freddy ones are like, oh, he's dead and he's gone, and then he somehow just comes back.
Yeah,
And
But
I mean, that's fine
yeah.
because that's what those movies were
having
doing.
the bones come back together was fine in this one.
Yeah, I was hoping
Yeah.
kind of like a Hellraiser.
Yeah.
When I was a kid too, something else is I always confused because just like seeing snippets, because I didn't watch these full movies till later. I saw snippets of Hellraiser 2 and snippets of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, and I always confused them.
Yeah.
Because in
They're kinda
Hellraiser,
similar.
they have like the walking on the staircase thing, and for some reason, I always thought that was from a Nightmare on Elm
they
Street.
kind of have the same vibe.
Yeah, the same kind of grime to them both, I think.
And one of the actresses in the second Hellraiser kind of resembles another actress in Dream Warrior, the girl that gets primetime to bitch, and like they kind of look similar. So I remember kind of confusing that too, because they're not the same, but they're both blonde,
and that's just
pretty-
catching snippets of it on TV.
yeah,
and
just
kind of
catching snippets of it on TV.
confusing them. But yeah, so I guess we can get our
real
thoughts
quick.
out.
Here's my pitch for a way to reboot this series. And sorry, it's not for the general American audience probably, but I think a way to get away from this, or maybe this would like clean a palate, and that way we could get an American reboot that would maybe like be a little bit more palatable to the hardcore fans. Maybe they just wait till all the hardcore fans die off. Well, they can reboot it in 50 years. You know what I mean? Like, but so I would like to see, because we remake so many Japanese horror films.
Japanese remake.
I would love
That'd
to
be
see
interesting,
a
yeah.
Japanese Freddy film. You know what I mean? Like totally in Japanese. I'm not saying a Japanese director or
No, I want an actual movie in Japan.
Yeah, you subtitled everything. Like
Legit.
that would be fun to do with that. Even Halloween, like imagine Michael Myers type stalking. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that'd be interesting,
in
yeah.
Japan. Like I want to see all those films translated to other countries. Even if it's not even that, like just see,
Well, and a lot of those J horror movies had the kind of wishy-washy endings too.
yeah, like I would really like to see that through that lens because
Yeah.
we see so many of their films through the American lens. I don't know if that would ever play, but I would love
Yeah.
to see that. That would be a project I would love to watch.
because I think it would be
if you distance
so
it-
different.
if
Yeah, it
you
would be
distance
distant
it-
enough from Robert Englund and just a weird disconnect where it would be easier for a lot of people to digest. I
Because
think.
as we found out with the Ghostbusters reboot, you can't simply say, let's just make it a female cast and not
Yeah.
connect it to the original.
Well,
People still get upset.
I think
so-
the one thing that benefits the Nightmare on Elm Street for that more is the mysticism that surrounds Dreams is culturally like worldwide. It's not just an American thing. So I think that makes it
and there's all
easier.
kinds of because I'm somebody that experiences sleep paralysis and actually dealt with it a few times this weekend.
Yeah.
And like it's not to me anymore. It's not any scary. It just gives you terrible quality of sleep, and it's annoying for that.
Because
aspect. But there's so much dream shit out there now where people are obsessed with if you look on YouTube, there are probably now 100 different short films about sleep paralysis, like horror short films.
Because like I think Friday the 13th is based on the Lake Bodom murders or something.
Well, any of
and-
these things are based on
very loosely. But this one, you look at like Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's like that's probably pulled from
Well,
something.
like Halloween
Yeah,
was
he said
originally
it was
called
like a series of newspaper articles, and it was. I can't remember, but I started watching the behind the scenes thing on the Blu-ray I have. I thought I had special features for all of them, but I think I just have like one special feature. I started watching it, but then I quit because I'd seen it before and I forgot. But yeah, it's based on articles he had read, I think.
Yeah, I think the one thing I've always kind of liked about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is like Freddy through his origins is like a really despicable guy. So
But they really shifted goalposts on what he was.
Yeah, but they it's a very fluid thing and it shifts around a lot. But
because he was just like a loner that killed some kids, and then he had like a wife and family. And,
Yeah.
but it sounds like we didn't hate this movie. So
Yeah, so in terms of wrapping this up, like the overall franchise, I haven't watched, like, if we still have to get to later movies, I
do
haven't
not
really
like
watched
5
them
and
enough.
6 or whatever.
So to me, it's really kind of like 1, then like 3 and New Nightmare, and then maybe 4, and then the other ones I don't really care about as much, or I haven't watched them as much. Because like part 5 is the one where they have like the baby and stuff.
Yeah,
I
I
remember
don't-
it, but I just don't.
yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one where it shows more of like his backstory, I think. And then there's Freddy's Dead or whatever.
Freddy's Dead is the one with the director of Tank Girl, I think, set in the future, right? Because I kind of like that one because it's so weird. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people hate that one, but I like it just because it's weird. Like,
Yeah.
screw it. You know what I mean? Like, make it
just
really
think-
stupid. And
Like, so where you at rating wise? Like,
So like, I think
I know it's hard to rate it, but
I think it's so like in the last one we were talking about Halloween 2 and didn't really give it a score. Like I think this one, like to me the most, because I know some people this is their favorite movie in the series. To me, like at best it's like a 6 or a 5.5.
I would land around a 6.
because it's cheesy, it's
Yeah.
very dated. There's a few good moments, but I don't connect or remember any of the character stuff.
That's the
No.
problem. There's some
There's no
great
characters.
scenes, but when you're
They don't
watching as a
bother you.
film, like, because I'd watched this not that long, I watched all the films not that long ago, really, and now watching again, like, okay, it's somewhat fresh, and then I just like was zoning out during it, you know?
Yes, Dirk, what would you give it?
I enjoy it. It's not like I enjoy 1 and 3 the most, and you got 2, and then like this, and then everything else. I like
just-
New Nightmare. New Nightmare's in this one.
2 is also just such like an outlier.
I love 2.
2 is one of my favorite scenes when they cook everybody in the hot or the pool.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
funny. But
I love 2.
there's some stuff I liked in it.
because 2 draws you in and has a focus on fewer characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I think though, to me, this movie is very much like a product of the MTV world in the 80s.
Yeah.
It is something you can never replicate because everything's changed so much. I'm with you all. I mean, I'm at a 6 on it, but to me, like, this is definitely, if you had people over and you're into horror movies and this is something you could definitely put on and most people could enjoy.
But,
it
like, the thing
'cause it's
is,
so different.
Comparing this to say 1, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I think the original one has replayability.
Yeah,
because
this one-
it doesn't require existing knowledge of any characters.
This one
But this one looks
doesn't.
better and has
Yeah.
a better budget,
But-
bigger budget.
but to
like
me,
if you're
it's
just
like-
trying to be flashy,
It's all you need to know. This movie is just kind of like it tells you everything you know in the very beginning because they kill everybody and switch to a new cast. So
Yeah.
it's like you don't need to watch.
And when I
this.
think of having people over watching, I'm not thinking of everybody sitting on the couch. I'm thinking about turning it on
Turn it
in the
on in
background.
background,
This is
yeah.
a better
And,
background
hey,
one.
watch this, watch this, and when the girls get into their cockroach, that's what you do with this movie, and that's
Cockroach.
That's kind of like because I was watching this because I've seen this movie so many times, I didn't need to sit down and watch it from beginning to end. But like I was watching stuff doing around the house, and it's like, oh, come here, watch this. When the girl gets turned into a cockroach, in the pizza scene, or just the girl gets deflated, like you watch that stuff, and then you just.
Creative stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not really engaging after you've seen it a few
Well,
times.
they should have just they should just completely left the original characters out or the prior characters, or made them more integral. Because
Well, I think the only reason they brought them back is just
that movie was so popular,
and to have a reason for Freddy to be there.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up our discussion of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master. And if you're listening via iTunes, you can do a huge favor, leave us a review there that helps other people find the podcast. You can always leave us feedback on YouTube if you're watching it there, or wherever you listen. You can leave comments on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at podcast@houseofvideostore.com. You can find links to all of our social media accounts on the website, houseofvideostore.com. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We don't really use Vimeo anymore. I think they're changing Vimeo up pretty significantly.
Yeah, we had
in
to
this
pay
feature.
to get all of our stuff on there with how much long these videos are and stuff.
Nope, we're not doing that. So make sure to follow us on those areas, and YouTube and Facebook for sure, to see new short films and things we're working on as those are in progress. You can follow us on Instagram to see pictures of things and things we might talk about in the upcoming podcast. So you can find everything at houseofvideostore.com. If you want to find us specifically on the internet, you can find me on Twitter at William Caps.
Instagram and Twitter at MetaWorldDerek.
And I'm at Blevin Sean on Twitter.
Yep, and that'll bring this episode of the House Video Store podcast to a close. Thanks for listening.
House by the Video